Hello and welcome to this video on entrepreneurship. Today we are discussing the common question that a first-time entrepreneur always faces. It is whether to go alone or whether to go with partners. Okay, so this has been something which almost every entrepreneur just mulls initially before jumping in. So before I put my opinion out there, so let's look at what are the various factors involved here. So let's look at the advantages and disadvantages of going alone versus going with co-founders or partners. Okay, so if you look at going alone, so it has many advantages as well as many disadvantages. The primary advantage that I can think of is the decision making. So if you're alone, so you'll be able to make the decisions very quickly. There is only one person who makes the decision. So whatever you feel is the right thing to do, you will do that at some point in time. So you want to change the direction of the business, or you want to add additional lines or anything like that. You don't necessarily have to get anybody else to agree to you. If you feel that something is good, go ahead with that particular decision. Okay, and so along with that, the decision making process is fast, and the other part about going alone is that whatever happens, whether it's good or bad, so there is only one person responsible. So if the business goes great, then so you basically get the profits, and if it goes down, you are responsible for all the liabilities and stuff like that. Okay, and the other major part is that things are very flexible because again you don't have anybody to discuss with. So there are many of these advantages are there definitely when you are going alone. But when we look at the disadvantages, see the key thing is that the advantage itself becomes the disadvantage, because there is only one person out there, and then all the decisions are being made by one person. So obviously, that person may or may not be familiar with, or rather, equipped to make all the decisions. Okay, so that becomes a huge problem, and one person may not have all the skills that are required to build and run a business. So you cannot depend on anybody else, to bring in that thing unless you employ people. So whatever are the skills that you don't have, you will have to go and then find employees who might have those kind of skills. But the problem with employees is that so they're employees. Employees normally work for a salary, so you cannot expect them to act like owners of the organization. So obviously, the accountability will be a problem, especially if you really look at it in India. See, the employee accountability is one of the major concerns that you might want to think about. And the other major thing with, or rather disadvantage with going alone is that, see, as and when you move in this journey, at some point in time, you may face a lot of problems. Sometimes, you would have some ideas, and you may not have anybody to bounce off all of these things with, whether it's a problem or whether it's an idea. So it's pretty much you'll be feeling lonely. I mean, you will be having a feeling of loneliness out there. So you may not even want to discuss this with family unless family is involved in it. But so you may not have anybody to discuss your problems or your ideas, or or share your excitements or anything like that with, and that can really hurt at some point. Okay, and the other major disadvantage with going alone is that, say for example, you would want to raise some investments at some point in time. At that time, it becomes very difficult if you are a single owner. Your fundability, or rather, so when people look at you for investments, your business as an investment target, then a single owner is a big no-no for many of the investors. I'm not saying that you will not get investments, but it's a very, very difficult proposition. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of going alone. Now let's look at the advantages and disadvantages of having other people with you. Whether whether they are partners, whether they are co-founders, so depending upon how you would want to structure your organization. So we will definitely discuss about those kind of things at a later point in time. So the advantages is definitely that you will have more skill set. So you would ideally want to get partners, who complement you in your skills. Say if you are good at operations, you might want somebody who is good at managing finances or doing sales. So obviously, your partners can bring on some other skill set or complementing skill set onto the table. And the other major advantage is that the decisions are made collectively. So rather than depending on one person's impulse, so there will be discussions, and then so you will have a collective decision making process in there. And so that pretty much brings in some checks and balances into how the organization is run. So you will have some kind of a structure, some kind of a process for your decision making. And obviously, the founders will have each other as sounding boards, where they can share their problems, share their ideas, share the excitement and everything with one another. And the other thing is that obviously going for an investment might become a little bit more easier. I'm not saying that will having another partner will get you funded, but it becomes a lot more easier provided that you have all the other ticks on the business. But when it comes to the disadvantages of having multiple people, obviously the biggest problem is that at some point in time you will have disagreements. So how, and then it can create huge problems, huge rifts within the funding team or the founding team. So you can get into a much bigger trouble with partners or co-founders. I think that will be the biggest disadvantages of having people. If there is no alignment, if there is no alignment on culture, if there is no alignment on values, then you might have a problem. So these are the in a nutshell what I would say the advantages and disadvantages of both these models. But now coming to the point whether you should go alone or you should find some co-founders or partners. In my opinion, it is best if you can find some partners. At least one other person whom you can convince. So the first thing is that that will basically validate your idea on the business or the viability of the business. If you can find one other person who is willing to put their career or their life on the line for your idea, that means that you are winning that battle at least halfway. So that apart from see the emotional decisions, he's my friend, so I have to go and then work with him on his business. But if there is a rational kind of a decision making by the other party, then that is a validation of your business potential, at least to some extent. And then, so even when you're going for a funding or something like that, so if you can narrate that story, saying that I had this idea and then I convinced 2 or 3 other people to come and join me, that becomes a good plus point for your for your investment seeking propositions. So I would say if you can find such co-founders or partners who can align with you, or who share a same kind of vision, or in plain English, you can say if your frequency or wavelength match, then you should definitely go and then get a partner, because that's going to make at least your life a little bit more easier, because you're sharing some responsibility for with somebody else, and then you will have somebody else who has their skin in the game. So it's not a battle that you would want to fight alone, because as you know, entrepreneurship or building a business is not a sprint; it's a marathon. So you need to have enough energy, enough resources to fight a very very long battle. And then if you have other people with you in that journey, it will definitely help. So my 2 cents is that please go try to get your co-founders or your partners, whatever that you want to call, and then convince them on your idea, and then do it together. Okay, thank you.